About 6 years ago, I did a video called, excuse me, called "How Food Stopped My Seizures," and at that time, it was real. In 2016, I wasn't having any seizures, and it worked really well for a good while up until 2018. It was still working. In 2018 hit, my epilepsy decided to evolve, which I've learned happens. I had a massive seizure. I happened to be out of state, and we had to do some emergency situations to get back home and get my car back home. And I have not driven since. It's been almost 4 years now since I've driven a car. And I'm going to be going into some things and following up on that video about the food stopping seizures. And I'm going to talk about how nutrition and how vital it is, not only just for epileptics. And I'm going to go into some other things about what I got going on. And I'm bringing this all out because I want to put this out into the public view. And I'm trying to bring as much awareness to epilepsy and to seizure disorders. If you don't know, you will know after this that there's over 2 million Americans. That's 2 million, not 2 billion, but 2 million Americans, at least 2 million Americans that are living with diagnosed epilepsy. There's over 100,000 soldiers that have battle-induced seizure disorders. 1 in 10 will have a seizure in their lifetime. 1 in 26 will be diagnosed with epilepsy in their life. That results in the factor that epilepsy is the third most common neurological disorder, only behind strokes and Alzheimer's. Well, Alzheimer's first, then stroke, but it doesn't make a difference. So I'm just saying that those two are ahead of epilepsy. Now, the interesting thing is there's more cases of epilepsy and more diagnoses every year than for many types of cancer, for many other diseases. And yet epilepsy receives far less in federal funding for research and for treatments. And that's one thing that I'm going to talk about, is the factor that we need to raise awareness for epilepsy. It's so common, as I mentioned, that 1 in 26 will develop epilepsy. But here's the thing that drives me crazy, is the stigma that gets put on behind epilepsy. Sure, I've been through the ups, I've been through the downs. I've been through 16 plus medications, not one of which has really done the trick. I'm currently on 2 different medications right now. One makes me extremely exhausted and lethargic, and the other, not really sure what it does, but it doesn't help with the trying to lose weight. It doesn't help with trying to stay focused on what you're trying to do in life, or what I'm trying to do in life, I should say. I'm gonna start talking now about a couple other things that result behind this. Given the commonality and given the factor so many people out there are, as a veteran, I was diagnosed in 2011, so before I was diagnosed with epilepsy, before I started having seizures, I was in the U.S. Army from 97 through, I left active service in 2000. And 2011 is when I was diagnosed. The reason I'm throwing that out there is because of the veterans and the battle-induced seizure disorders. And for epilepsy itself, especially epilepsy itself, is why I'm doing what I'm going to tell you. In October of 2022, I am going to walk/run from here in Florida do over 1,000 miles in under 25 days on foot from here in Florida to Missouri. And choosing Missouri because it's the home of First Form Supplements, a company I care greatly about. They do a lot of great things, and they have some really great supplements. They have really great standards, and I appreciate everything that they do as far as for helping people out and how they help each other out and how they're a family. It's really quite impressive. It's really quite amazing, in my opinion, just the way that company stands. Now, sure, it helps that I'm a Legionnaire. I have a little bit, I don't know if I should even say that, but a little bit of a, I forget the terminology, and my meds aren't helping me remember it. But anyway, let's go back to 2020 when I went in, and you can see the scars. I actually have an upside down smiley face if you want to look at it that way. I went in 2020 in the middle of the whole COVID thing, and I had 3 brain surgeries over the course of a month, and they implanted an RNS device from NeuroPace, which is essentially a pacemaker for the brain. And given that my epilepsy is so rare, I have what's called thalamic epilepsy, or that's what they're coming up with, is calling it thalamic epilepsy. They were like saying, I think like maybe 300 people in the country have it, if I understand that correctly. Could be wrong on that, but that's what I remember being quoted. But there's 2 million people out there with diagnosed epilepsy. And if there's only 300 people with my type of epilepsy, I would call that fairly rare. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all that up is there's all these people out there that have seizure disorders and even have epilepsy, but they can't afford their medications. They can't afford to get to the doctors. They can't afford transportation to get to their doctors, which is why we started a 501c3 charity called ROC Stop Seizures. We are going to start accepting donations within the next couple months. We are going to be using those donations for grants for people like that. We're also going to be using that money for doctors to get properly educated on epilepsy. We're going to use that money to see if we can get better funding for epilepsy and for seizure disorders. We are going to work with as many people as possible. If we can work with the Epilepsy Foundation, the Charlie Foundation, just to name a few. Those types of places are amazing, and we don't have any financial stake in them, but they are really amazing people, and they have really amazing. Now, I know I will be going back and forth, and I might sound like I have a squirrel running around my head, but that is courtesy of the epilepsy and the epilepsy medications, and I do apologize, so I'm trying to stay on track. With epilepsy and with medications that cause all these different issues, there's another thing that's called SUDEP, or sudden death by epilepsy, that every epileptic has to worry about, and that typically happens when you sleep, and just for no reason whatsoever, just boom, you're done. Now, thinking about that every night before I go to bed is not exactly the healthiest thing to try to fall asleep to. Now, getting back to this whole training and the whole situation with going 1,000 miles in the course of 25 days, which equates to about 45 miles a day. I'm doing that to raise awareness for epilepsy. I'm doing it to raise awareness for veterans with seizure disorders. I'm doing that to break the stigma of epilepsy. I believe it was fairly recently, as far as the 70s, which isn't that recent, but it's recent enough. But there were states that would ban people with epilepsy from getting married, which is ludicrous. There was, over the last several hundred years, people with seizure disorders, they would think they were possessed by demons. I've been battling, as I mentioned earlier, I've been battling with epilepsy since 2011, and at 36 years old, laying in bed and all of a sudden having a seizure, never had one before, never realized I had one before, that is, was terrifying because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And getting the diagnosis thrown at me, hey, you have epilepsy. It was just like, what the heck? Now, being the researcher that I am and being the person I am, I don't necessarily just say, hey, doc, what do you got? Throw the pill at me. Let's go for it. That's not my way. And that's where I started the whole thing, where food did for a while stop my seizures. And see how I'm bringing this back around? Food stopped my seizures for a good long while. The ketogenic diet did work for me as a medication, a medical side of things. People have changed the ketogenic diet to suit their needs, and whether it be weight loss or other treatments, which is fine and dandy and cool. But for doing it for epilepsy, eating 90% of your diet as fat, it's pretty hardcore, and it's pretty hard to do, especially as an adult. Now, going low carb and maintaining low carb, I do believe will help people around the world, especially for weight loss maintenance, just overall health. The thing is, when it comes to dealing with all these different diseases and all these different conditions, the medical community doesn't have it just right, and taking a doctor's word for it, this is my opinion. They have a lot of education. They're extremely smart people, but it's not guaranteed. So just saying, hey doc, what do you got? Throw the pill at me. Not the best solution. Take your time, get multiple people to give you opinions, read lots of articles, constantly keep that brain ticking, constantly, because you know what? You never know what you're going to find out there that could be like, hey, this may work, this may change this. Like me, I didn't give up. I've been through 8-9 neurologists over the last 11 years, because I didn't necessarily say, hey, you have the right opinion, or you have the right opinion. I went to Johns Hopkins. The doctor there didn't even bother looking at my medical records. That could have been just the way he did his thing. But they also had their information scattered. Sorry about the dog. Had their information or their departments scattered clear across Baltimore, so I would have had to gone to like multiple different spots, which wasn't cohesive, wasn't going to work for what we needed to do. And excuse me. Went to the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville. Amazing setup, amazing place. Between them and the Epilepsy Center of Orlando over at Advent Health in downtown Orlando over Princeton were two of the people that stopped and listened and actually took the time to listen, and they realized I was not just somebody that's just coming off the street saying, hey, I don't know what to do. I presented the evidence I had in hand. I brought in articles, and the doctors weren't like, they were shocked, but they weren't like, oh, you have no clue what you're talking about, you have no idea. They were actually impressed that I did my own research and was willing to do my own research, which is something that every patient, no matter what your condition, no matter what your situation, should get out and do. Since I've had this NeuroPace put in, since I've had this NeuroPace RNS device put in, I've had 2, maybe 3 tonic-clonic seizures, which went from 1 or 2 a month for over a year to getting to a halt. Now, on the catch side, while that happened, while those stopped or slowed, my myoclonic jerks, which is another type of seizure, they ramped up for a long time after the surgery, and they got extremely potent and extremely powerful. Now, the funny thing is, they now have died down, and it seems like the tonic-clonics have come back, along with having an absent seizure here and there. An absent seizure being where you just basically blank out. So, nothing is perfect. Nothing is ideal. You got to take it and roll with the punches every day, and you got to deal with what's going to work for you. And I apologize that this video is running so long, but I wanted to come on and follow up because food stopped my seizures for a good while, stopped my seizures for good couple years. And I should have redone this video several years ago. I wish I did, and would have kept following up on it. It's still my best route of keeping things as safe as possible for me. Keeping carbs at a minimum work best for me. And this is not a medical diagnosis, not a treatment, not anything. Do I believe medical low carb would work for a lot of people? Yes. Would it work for everybody? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a magician. I'm not a medical professional. This is just an epileptic that's been through a lot and has seen a lot. And I want as many people out there to take the time to read this video, watch this video, share this video, and who knows, maybe help out. If you can, take the time to check out ROCStopSeizures.com. Check out the page. Check out especially the Journey of 1,000 Miles section, because we're going to need your help. We're going to need volunteers. We are going to need donations. We're going to need a lot of different things over the next several months. We're going to be reaching out more and more. Our 501c3 is going to be up and running in the next month. It's ROC Stop Seizures. That's the name of the charity. The name of the website again is ROC Stop Seizures. And that's ROC as in Ryan O'Connor, Stop Seizures all together.com. So ROCStopSeizures.com. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if you have any questions or you want to follow up with anything, I'm always available. You can message me through Instagram. You can message me through Facebook. You can find me on Instagram with at Rock and Flynn. You can find me on Facebook under the Health Dad page, or you can find me on my regular page, just Brian O'Connor. That being said and done, I'm going to wrap things up. Take the time to check out the sites. If you have any question, let me know. And hopefully I didn't bore you too much. And hopefully you will be able to come out and help volunteer. And we will hopefully see you on the road in October, if not soon, sooner than that, because we do need as many people out there as possible. If you can volunteer a day out there on the road, that's awesome. If you can volunteer a week, that's even better. We are going to bring this journey full circle, and we are going to make this one amazing situation. If you have people in the media, please share this with the media. We want to make this explode. We want to get epilepsy, we want to get seizures out of the dark and into the light. We want to get the proper funding that they deserve. We need to help so many patients that need to be helped. That all being said and done, I'm not religious, but God bless you, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me and listen to me babble on a little bit. I do apologize for that. And on that note, much love to everybody, and I will catch up with you soon.